Another Friday. Here with you guys is trying to catch up. Make sure we all equipped for 2025. I know that some of us have made some New Year resolutions and just making a decision that we're going to live life a little differently, which is all great. And I know some of you guys, a part of that is shooting with confidence at the range. So some of you guys may have said, okay, 2025, I'm gonna move a little different. I'm gonna get into the range a little bit more so I can get a little more familiar and a little bit more comfortable. And with that thought process, you need to understand how to do that confidently. Sometimes we just don't have the confidence that we need to accurately shoot, consistently shoot accurately. So I'm here today with those quick little tips to help you stay on track and know exactly how you can shoot and feel good about it before you even shoot. So we're going to walk through step by step. But before we get into all of that, I hope everybody's having a great new year start anyway. I still can't believe it's 2025. 2024 just blew right on by if you ask me. But definitely, if this is your first time visiting the channel, I am Mrs. Trouble, and this is Shoot the and I'm going to help you guys be empowered. Particularly our ladies out there need a little bit more empowerment than guys do in lots of areas, especially around firearms. And I'm also going to help you guys know about firearm safety awareness. Like today, our topic is going to help you build the confidence you need to be able to shoot accurately at the range. So, little disclaimer, this conversation could be for everyone. However, I know that beginners are going to probably get more out of the experience of this conversation. I do expect that I do have some firearm users already that may learn a thing or two. Hopefully, that's my goal right there, that regardless of what level you are in firearm knowledge and skill, that you would be able to take some of this and benefit from it, learn from it, or maybe just get a nice little refresher. That's really the goal. So as I am a licensed firearm instructor, my love and my passion is making sure that my students have the confidence to be able to shoot. Hi, Bree. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Poquito español for me. I know very little Spanish, so not much. So hopefully you understand me okay. And everybody else who's joining, just go ahead and tell me where you're joining from. So Mr. or Miss Bree, I don't know if it's Mr. or Miss, but can you tell me where you're joining from? I don't know if you're from the US or from another country, but let me know where you're joining from. I'd love to see who is out here viewing and what areas. That would be really great to know. So again, I'm Mrs. Trouble, licensed firearm instructor, and let's just jump right on into this. So we know, with the New Year's, lots of times we start with our New Year resolutions, and lots of times we'll say, okay, I'm gonna start a new path of making sure that I do this, I do that, I do this. And we get a little caught up in it, and we add firearms to it, and it's a lot into it. It's sometimes a little bit scary for some. And I do see we have some that's joined from North Carolina. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining. And hola, ¿cómo está? Bien, bien. So when it comes to the gun community, it's so much to know. It's important for you guys to know that this conversation is based on marksmanship, not based on self-defense shooting per se. So I'm really speaking of going into a range, regardless if it's an indoor range or an outdoor range, okay? But I'm really speaking of the confidence that it takes to be able to shoot accurately when you have so many other shooters right beside you and shooting as well. Sometimes it can get a little bit unnerving to step into that space and you see so many other people out there shooting and you hearing all these guns going off and you just don't know, what to do sometimes. You're just a little bit really nervous. So the first thing I want to help you guys be aware of is that sometimes people have fears of firearms. So sometimes it's not that they were raised around firearms and they know about it. We're all coming from different areas, different backgrounds of firearms. So some of us have experience growing up maybe in a city area where guns were not so popular, maybe was illegal. We may be growing up in a whole country that doesn't allow firearms at all. So when it comes to that, you are starting to put yourself in this environment that is unfamiliar. And then there are some that has traumatic experiences that are around firearms. Maybe you've witnessed someone use a firearm. Maybe you've had to use a firearm for self-defense purposes. Or maybe the only thing that you've seen about firearms is negativity because the media, because of rap music, or whatever avenue you may have come across. It's I understand, but there is a lot of positivity in the gun community, and a lot of times you don't hear people talking about that. So I'm here to speak on that right now. When it comes to the gun community, it's so much more positive than you would know. You would go into this space, and the people that are in there typically are inviting. They may be a little bit standoffish at first because they're trying to assess you, because safety is always number one. Um, but then after a while, you've been in the range often, you go there often, you'll begin to make friends. Your neighbors that are shooting beside you, they're more likely to say, hey, oh, I see what you're shooting over there. You want to shoot this? So they might be willing to actually allow you to shoot their firearm just for fun. So it's one of those things where you'll see people are a little more inviting than what you may believe they are in that setting. Now, so once we've gotten past the initial shock of being in there into the range, you have to think about a few little things here. One, you have to face that fear, whatever that fear may be. The fear can be, the sound of the guns. That's the most likely fear that people have. It's a little bit strange. It could be a bit overwhelming to hear the sound be so loud because we hear it, we see it in the media, we see it on Hollywood movies, and I tell you, they don't do any justice to how loud the gun actually is. I love movies. I am a big movie buff. And that's one of those things that I'm always picking up in the movies is how accurate they were about the sound of the firearm. And, just counting rounds when people are shooting. I'm like, oh, they definitely they would have been out of ammunition for that particular gun. So it's just so funny. Me and my husband will sit there and watch movies and we'll say things like that. So the more you are around it, the more you'll understand those little tiny little details. When it comes to addressing our fear at the range, there's so many different things that we have to consider the fact of. One, the sound. The sound is a little mitigated because you'll wear ear protection, okay? I'll talk about that a little bit more in the details in just a moment. And as I say all these things at the very end of this video, if you stick around, you'll see how all of it ties together. So I'm starting off bit by bit so you guys can piece it all together and have that confidence you need when you finish this conversation today. And also, just please be mindful that this is an open discussion. So if you have any questions and comments, go ahead and put it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer it as I go through. So facing that fear is like the biggest thing you have to do. So that initial step in there, having the goal to say, okay, I don't care if I'm fearful of this thing, I'm going to try this today. One fear that I've had common for my students, besides the sound, is the fact that the gun is going to go off whenever, just because it's sitting there. That is definitely a false. The gun is never going to go off unless you're squeezing the trigger. Okay. Now, there is that rare occasion that maybe 30, 40 years ago, a gun that was dropped could have gone off. However, there are safety mechanisms inside of the guns these days that are made, and they are usually drop protected. So they do different tests to make sure that the gun is dropped, that it's not going off. Majority of the gun manufacturers are doing that these days. So if you're buying a gun that's made within like the last 20 years, you should be safe from that. So keep it in mind that you are in control of the gun and not the other way around. So always remember that. I'm in control of the gun, not the other way around. So when you have these things in your mind about safety, another factor will be just the environment alone. The fact that there's so many other shooters side by side, right? So you're not really sure, especially when you're in these dividers, unless you're going to a range that has clear dividers, you're not really sure what the person next to you is doing. And that also can cause a little bit of nervousness to stir within you. rightfully so. I get it. I understand. Please understand that the range does have safety precautions where you'll have some range locations go so far as to making sure that each person goes through like a paper quiz, that they'll check each answer, and they have a safety drill. All ranges have some sort of safety precaution that they do. The range safety officers are typically given a safety drill before a person is allowed to shoot. Lots of ranges don't even allow you to shoot in a range unless you've had some formal training beforehand. And so there are different safety precautions that each location does when it comes to that. So each person going into there should have been briefed and understood on what the rules are, the do's and don'ts. So one of the things that makes me feel safe is going to a range that has range safety officers that are currently on duty always, watching everyone's back. So that definitely helps me feel a little bit more secure and comfortable, because then I can focus a little more on my students versus stepping back and focusing on everyone else to make sure everybody else is being safe. So for me, I'm not going to a range that doesn't have a range safety officer. I don't really want to go to a range without one, because it just helps me feel a little bit more comfortable to know that the range safety officer is watching my back and everyone else's back. So that's one of those things I have to understand about going to a range, regardless if it's an indoor range or an outdoor range. Which brings me to my next topic. Outdoor ranges are pretty cool. The fact that you don't have to deal with the sound as much, and also the air circulation is a lot better, right? So those are some pluses to shoot into an outdoor range. So it's one of those things you have to kind of assess for yourself as to what type of range would you prefer to go to. Do you feel more comfortable in an indoor place or an outdoor place? And so you kind of just got to check it out for yourself to see what works. Now, Michael made an excellent statement there. He said that he feels like the people at the range profile him. And I would have to second to that, Michael. And there's a reason for it. Because when it comes to going to the range, safety is first. So they're always going to be on the defense to make sure that you and them and everybody else is safe. So that's the staff positioning. When it comes to all the people that are shooting there, I think they're all still trying to do the same thing, making sure everybody's being safe around them. And so once you make them aware that you know what you are doing, then you probably won't feel like that so much more, because then they'll really say, oh, okay, this person knows what they're doing. I definitely got the profile thing. I mean, I can tell you, I got two things going against me. One, I'm a woman, and two, I'm a person of color. So going into those places where it's predominantly one race, and you got, it's just not a common thing to see a female in a range by herself, or it's not a common thing to see a female being an instructor in a range. So if I'm going to a new range, it's like, oh, you're an instructor? Oh, wow. Okay. That's the response that I get all the time. And then after that, it's kind of like really observing me, like really watching me. And I notice that I'm watched until after I've been there for a little while, a couple of times, then they start to back off and they're like, oh, okay, hey, what's up, Miss Trouble? Okay, hey, okay, I see you. And everything's okay after that. But it took a little minute, but we got some progress going. So hang in there, Michael. Keep going to the same location. Get familiar with the staff, and then you'll also be familiar with the people that are coming in there too. If there's regulars in there, you may see them often and make new friends. You never know. So let's see. Someone said, "I wish my country had American laws and similar to the Second Amendment." Okay, yeah, that would be nice. The thing about it is it comes with its own price, though. The Second Amendment is really a cool thing that America has, where we can defend ourselves by way of deadly force like firearms. However, it comes with a whole lot more responsibility, and you may see a lot of that in the media, a lot of the negativity that goes along with it. So there's pros and cons, and I'm sure your country has its own thing too. I'm sure knives is a big problem. So I don't think that if we took the guns away in America, that it's going to fix so much problems as we think it would fix. Because people, if they intend to do harm, they're going to find a way to do it, regardless of what tool. Okay. So just jumping back into this though. when it comes to facing your fears at the range, just definitely make sure that you're facing it in a safe way. And you never want to force someone who's really not ready. There was once at the range that I was training a student, and next to me, it was a man training a female student of his own. And whew, it hurt my heart. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm not the very like emotional person per se, but this made me like I was almost in tears with the young lady. So I can see her like face turn red and she's starting to cry. And this man is like hovering over her while he's trying to teach her how to shoot a rifle. And I'm looking at the rifle and I'm like, that's kind of a big round. It's not like a little baby round there, not a 22 or anything, but it's like a 5.56 round or something. And I'm like, that's gonna pack a little punch. And if she's already crying and she hasn't even begun to shoot, I'm thinking to myself, instructor, you need to back off a little bit. Give her some space. And then I'm also thinking as a woman, okay, does she know this guy? Or is he an instructor like myself that she's hired? So so I step over and I politely say, hey, I took a big risk because normally I don't intervene on anybody else's, instruction, but I did take a risk. I said, hey, sir, sounds like and it looks like you're doing an excellent job. Do you mind if I speak to her for just a moment? He said, yeah, sure. Because I mean, honestly, as an instructor, I think he was doing a magnificent job, honestly. Okay. But I was concerned about her mental state, the fact that she was in there crying. And I asked her, I said, hey, do you need to take a step out? You want to take a step out and regroup yourself, or you think this is not for you, or, something. And so we just talked it up for like about 2 minutes or so. And eventually she was like, yeah, I'm okay. And thank you so much. And I actually ended up giving her a hug. And then she was okay. And she went right back into it and she wasn't crying anymore. She was ready to go. So, with that being said, sometimes it just takes a little pep talk and sometimes people need that time to step out and then go back in, and that's okay, but just encourage them to always come back in if they do step back out, because you don't want them to like leave and then never come back kind of thing. So it just brings me to my next point of making sure that you have a supportive person at the range with you. You don't want to go to the range with someone who's an arrogant butthole and just like pushing you to shoot this and shoot that because they've had all the experience in the world of shooting so many big rounds that nothing scares them anymore, or they think everything is cool and everything is funny. But you don't need that if you are in the range trying to learn and you're really nervous already. You need someone who's going to be calm and who's going to support you in that need. So, which brings me to my next short story about my own experience learning how to shoot firearms. For anybody out there who already knows me, I've already expressed that I was not raised around firearms. My husband is the one that introduced me into firearms. And when he did, funny story, he actually trained the military to use firearms. So he had lots of experience of being an instructor, but me being his wife, I wasn't listening. I was just like, okay, you're being a little bit too pushy. Okay, no, I don't want to do it that way, or I don't feel comfortable doing it this way. And it just was, I was not listening. For some reason, I was just shut off. And I guess it was just my safety. I was concerned about my safety. So while I trust him, he is my defender. I knew he was not going to put me in harm's way, but I was like, all these other people around here shooting, we don't have no control over that. So that was my concern. And so I couldn't really focus. So what he ended up doing was getting me a female instructor. And oh my gosh, it made all the world of a difference. By the time I finished doing one session with her, I noticed she was telling me to do all of the same things he was telling me to do. But for some reason, I just wasn't listening. I couldn't receive it. So it just goes to show that I'm not the only one. I've had many students, husbands come to me and they'll say, hey, I want my wife to do training with you because she's just not grasping the way I'm trying to explain it to her for some reason. And I'm like, oh, it's very common. Then I'll have other people who work at the range that say, hey, I have a student over there that I think you might want to go talk to her because she looks like she needs to be paired with a female instructor. So it's one of those things, guys, don't feel offended. It's a very common thing if your spouse, if your wife is not receiving the way that you're trying to instruct her on firearms. Maybe she just needs to go with a licensed instructor first for a little bit and then come back to hang out with you at the range. So don't be offended. It's something that's possible. And if you guys are in the DMV area, you can always hit up troubledefense.com and we'll be happy to help you guys at the range. So when it comes to um, that's just like a little touchy for some, that first experience or maybe a second time at the range, things like that. You never know, you might have to be a little bit more observant and a little bit more cautious about that. If you're taking a friend or a family member to the range, be conscious of those things. And then for some people, a shooting group or a shooting club might be the best option for them to help build that confidence and have camaraderie against others. I totally do like a monthly Women's Day because of that, because sometimes we just need that camaraderie to help us and encourage us. So that's also something to consider. Now, is anybody out there in a shooting group or a club? If you can just go ahead and put that out there for me. I'm just curious, have anybody already had those experiences? I hear they're great. I haven't tried any, but I have heard of some really good ones. Now, my third point here is wearing the proper ear protection, okay? The sound is so loud in the inside of the indoor range, okay? What I will tell you that in my personal experience, I'm not a fan of the earmuffs. I like the earbuds, the ones that are going into your ear, the earplugs rather. And what I find is comfortable is somewhere between the measurements are in decimals as far as how much sound it stops. So for me, I'm pretty comfortable somewhere between 29 and 38 decimals. Somewhere between that works good for me on any given day at the range, unless someone's at the range just shooting like crazy, you know, some really big things, then definitely closer to that 38 decimals is going to be best for me. But everybody's a little bit different as to what their needs are. Sometimes people like the ear muffs, the ones that go over your ears, and if that's the ones you like, I say go for it. But the only way you know is if you try it, right? Some people also do double up. They wear the earplugs and the earmuffs. It's totally up to you. Fill out what works for you, but never, never, never adjust your earbuds or your earmuffs while you're inside the indoor range. You need to step out to be able to adjust it if you need to change something up, okay? Because what I will tell you is another personal experience. Me trying different earbuds, I bought these like $50 pair. I seen it on like a website that was like, oh, okay, these looks really cool. And they gotta be great if they're like $40, right? Or $50. So I was like, okay, these aren't the little cheap little, squishy ones. I don't know what you call them, but I like to call them squishies. But though okay, well these are $50. These must be great. So I went and tried them at the range. I was at the range for a few hours doing training, and oh, worst mistake I ever made. When I left out of the range, I felt like I was underwater. I was like, come on, man. Like, this gotta fix. And I mean, the rest of the day I was going on with my ears just feeling like I was underwater. So thank goodness I was able to go on YouTube and find some kind of stretch like around my neck and a massage. And it relieved the pressure. And I felt so great. I was like, I will never make that mistake again. So tip to you, if you're in the range and you feel like the sound is actually hurting your ears, don't think, oh, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. I'm here to tell you that is not going to be okay. You need to make sure your ear protection is covering your ears where you're not hearing the sound hurt. You don't feel the sound hurt your ears. So as long as it's not hurting your ears, then your ears are protected enough. Then there are so many other types of muffs, the ones that go over your ears that eliminates the sound, the electrical ones, you got to put batteries in them. And it actually, you'll be able to hear people speak and things over top of the gun shooting. Some people like that kind. Me personally, I'm still out. I don't like that because I feel like it's distorting my ability to really use my senses. I need to hear the gunshots. I need to hear the people speaking. I want to hear it all, but not to a point where I can't hear. So a nice little medium, right? So point number 4, and again, you got to stick around to the end so that way you can see how all these points fit together, okay? And by the end, you will feel so much more confident about shooting. So pick a range that makes you feel comfortable, okay? So we talk a little bit about feeling like they're profiling you when you're walking in. At first, that might feel a little bit odd, but as I said, keep going, keep going. Show to them without speaking that you know what you're doing and that you're being safe. Once they see that, then they'll start to like calm down and be more inviting to you. Um, Also, pick a location, a range that is comparable to what you feel that you want. If you need a range that has firearms to rent, if you need a range that knows how to put on different attachments and things because you're interested in like customizing your firearm. Those are things you might look for. And also consider whether or not you want an indoor range or an outdoor range. You may decide that when it's nice outside, you're going to go outside. When it's not so nice outside, you're going to go inside. So definitely don't be afraid to pick a range that's going to work for you and what's comfortable. Just know that the indoor range, you also want to find something that has good ventilation, because the ventilation is a bad thing when you don't have so much of it, because lead poison is a concern. So when it comes to that, you want to find a location that has pretty good ventilation as well. Outdoor range, you don't have to worry about that as much. And then also, of course, you might want to find a range that has ammo for purchase, of course. That's a big deal right there. So a relief of mind that you don't have to buy ammunition ahead of time. You can get there and actually buy what you need, targets, and so forth. Okay. So point number 5, you want to pick a gun that is good for you. Okay. Now, there's a lot into that. So I'm only going to give you just a little bit of nuggets here to take with you. Okay. Picking a gun that is good for you kind of starts with some baseline things. Like, one, first of all, let's talk about whether or not it's going to be pistol, whether it's going to be shotgun, whether it's going to be rifle. Okay. And if it is a first time shooter, I would totally suggest anything small caliber, lowest caliber first, and work your way up. Don't let nobody take you to the range and it's your first time shooting and they say, "Oh, I think it'd be cool for us to rent this Desert Eagle right here. That's a 50 caliber pistol in your hand. That's a cannon." You don't want to start off with something like that. Yes, it's cool, but you don't want to start there. Work your way up. Find the smallest caliber that you can use and work your way up. Okay. And that's going to do you some justice, because that's going to help you keep the confidence that you have and keep it going. Because if not, you're going to shatter your confidence right there. Because immediately you're going to feel like you're not equipped to shoot any firearm if you start off too big of a caliber. So, when it comes to handguns, just to be a little bit more in detail, you can start with like a 22. If you have like a weak wrist or you have carpal tunnel, things like that, you had shoulder injury or surgeries, those are things you might want to start with like a 22 round for a pistol. Then you can work your way up to a 380 or a 9 millimeter. Um, and then so forth, so forth. So it's just one of those things where you kind of have to start small and work your way bigger. When it comes to the rifle world, same thing. You might want to start with that 22. It's still intimidating because it's a large gun, right? But lots of times people are fully just so intimidated by it because it's big. But come to find out, it has a little tiny round like a 22 that it can take. Okay. So if you start off there, you may have a little bit more confidence because by that time you have your form and everything, and you can kind of absorb the recoil that a 223 round might have. Okay, or 5.56, and go on so forth, so forth. So just again, build that confidence by starting small with the caliber and then working your way up. And of course, the same with the shotgun community. The fact that you have different rounds like the 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 16 gauge. Start small and then work your way up. When it comes to the shotguns, though, you also have different types of rounds. So does the other ones, but this is kind of impact that may differ from one type of round to another with the shotguns, because you can have something called your birdshot, which has multiple pellets, like 77 pellets on average, that kind of just sprays out. And then you'll have something that's called your buckshot. That's going to have a little less of pellets, okay? Still has a little bit, like 27 to 9 pellets, okay? Or 9 to 27 pellets. And then you also have something called a slug, which is one huge round, okay? So shooting those different types of rounds makes a difference in how it actually feels when you're shooting it. I know even for myself, shooting a shotgun, I shot one last like 10 years ago. It was like my first experience shooting one. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm out. I mean, at that point, I was probably like 30 pounds lighter than what I am now. And then I go and pick up a shotgun recent, and I'm like, this is nowhere near the experiences I remembered it being. But I'm also a lot more comfortable with firearms, the sound of it, the feel of it. I'm a little heavier in weight, so I can kind of just take the pressure of that shotgun and not be so bothered by it. How about you guys? Did you have good experiences at the range for your first couple times, or was it a bad experience? I'm just really curious about that. Now, when it comes to those huge shots like those slugs, I always think about Kevin Hart in the movie Ride Along. Did anybody else see that movie? I thought that was hilarious when he shot the shotgun like he just knew what he was doing and he flew back. I was like, Hollywood exaggerated again, you guys, okay? But it was hilarious. That was such a great scene. I'm curious if anybody else see that movie because I'm like, man, that was the part one. I know they have another part, but that was the part one, Ride Along, with Kevin Hart and Ice Cube. So when it comes to all of these things, you just kind of got to put it together and make it work for you. Everything is based on how you feel, okay? The gun has to also fit good in your hand. If you are getting a firearm that is a huge gun and you have small hands, no matter what caliber it is, you're not going to shoot it comfortably. If you have huge hands and a really tiny gun, it's also going to not feel so comfortable for you. You're going to have a bad experience. So, those are some things to consider when it comes to that. And also be mindful that, depending on what brand it is, makes or breaks the experience for you as well. If you're shooting a gun that's a cheap gun, if you will, it's going to shoot like a cheap gun. I mean, it literally is going to probably feel really uncomfortable no matter who's shooting it. So those are some things you have to consider when you're at the range shooting, okay? All right, so putting all these things together, it only makes sense once you put it together. So facing that fear, number one, then going to a range that's a supportive place for you, whether it's a shooting group or whether it's firearm training classes and things that you can go to, or just a range that simply allows you to try different firearms by renting different firearms. You want to make sure you're wearing the proper ear protection and eye protection, and then also um, picking a firearm that is going to be at your level. Again, starting small caliber and then going higher. Okay. So once you put all those things together, that would have already started the confidence building before you actually start to shoot. So let's talk about the real point of this conversation. When you are shooting, how you keep that confidence, you literally have to start from shooting from the ground up. I tell all of my students we really shoot from the ground up. Lots of times, that's a key point that is a lot of times missed, especially with women, because women tend to be lower body strength than upper body strength in most cases. Okay. We're not all made the same. Okay. Not putting us in a box. When I think about that, ideally, the fact is that all of us need to have balance at our feet. If we don't have balance at our feet, we don't have a good foundation. And this applies to every area of life. If we don't have a good foundation, then we're not going to really thrive like we really need to. So, just putting that in perspective as far as shooting, you can apply that to everything. So, literally, and also, something to take with you. So, starting with the feet, making sure that you have a good foundation and you have good balance. Having knowledge of the firearm use is also going to go a long way for you. So before you even put your hands on the firearm, you need to understand, like, how does it operate? What does this part do? What does that part do? And if you're going to the range and don't have any understanding of that, you're going to always feel like you're out of place, you're not equipped, you're not ready. And because you're not wrong, you know that you need to understand these things before you even putting your hands on the firearm. So, of course, that smaller caliber to the bigger caliber, this is where it really applies. Because if I put a gun in someone's hand who's never shot a gun before, and I'm giving them I don't know, 38 special, or I'm giving them a 357 or 44 Magnum pistol. It's just not going to go well. It's not going to be a good experience for them. So we're going to start small and help you work your way up. Okay. And then that balance is going to go key, because when that recoil happens, that boom feeling that you feel, you're going to be thrown off balance if you don't have good balance right from the beginning. So I want to hear from you guys. I'm curious, what is it that has made you feel uncomfortable, or what is it that has made you feel more assured about shooting? So I'm just curious if you guys have some experiences out there that I can help you with, because that's what it's all about here. I want to make sure that you guys are leaving with some things that you can take with you for the rest of your life and maybe help someone else. So, in the meantime, while you guys are tapping in with that information, I want to make sure you guys understand that the overall confidence that you need to have a firearm, whether you're concealed carrying or whether you just keep it at home, you need to have legal protection. That legal protection is going to be ideal, and a thing that's going to be needed for you to feel assured that you have support if you had to use your firearm in a line of self defense. So, just knowing that you can do something like join US Law Shield. That's a company that I partner with, and I love this company. I've been with them for many years. I stand by their service and their product. um, it's one of those things where I do have a promo code for you guys. If you do sign up with US Law Shield, you can use the code trouble. And in the description area, I also created I posted the link as well, so you can just press the link and be able to sign up with them. They do have coverage all over the US. And once you select your state, you'll see if they have coverage in your particular state. But it's one of those things where it helped me feel a little bit more confident about carrying a firearm once I provided legal protection for myself. So, because my thought process is, I don't want to be away from my babies. I know that there's going to be a situation after using my firearm, but the uncertainty of the law has always made me a little apprehensive about carrying until I got US Law Shield. So Dee, thanks for joining, and thank you for posting the comment here. So going to the range on a regular basis has really helped me. I also belong to a couple of shooting groups that provide great instructions and coaching. Oh, cool. I'm so glad that you do that. I know that's a really good support, and that's really awesome. So okay, USCCA. Okay. All right, cool. I'm really glad that you have that legal protection too. USCCA is another great company out there. Is one of those things where I always encourage people to please do your research and find out what company is the best for you and what's going to work for you. I mean, having legal protection is just a nice peace of mind, and definitely having that group of people to go to the range with on a regular kind of keeps you on your P's and Q's too. Because I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of camaraderie, but I'm sure there's a little bit of competition. I'm not a competitive person, but some others are out there, and it kind of helps you stay on point. So your skills will always stay up to date. And that's one of those things that you have to remember, that you have to always use this or you will lose it. That is for sure. If you haven't been to the range in 3 to 6 months to a year, you will see a difference in your shooting. I was surprised at how different I shot when COVID happened and the ranges were shut down for 3 months. I was like, whoa, I'm a whole different person here. I gotta like sleep here so I can make sure my skills get back up to par. So it's one of those things. Okay, Mad Woman 23 said they have Law Shield. Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm glad you got that. Make sure you have that security there for you and your family. I mean, it's just a good peace of mind to make sure that you have that good support out there. Okay, and Dee said we do have a few friendly competitions. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Oh yes, Mad Woman 23, I am with you. Dee, you're gonna have to do some research. Just go on YouTube and search up USCCA bad reviews. It's quite a bit of talk about some things that people did not have coverage like they thought once they had used their firearms. So I don't want to spoil that for you, but definitely look into that. And if you want a little bit more, you know how to get in contact with me. I got some more information for you. But I'm not here to bash any company or anything. So I just want to make sure you guys know that you should definitely do your research. I chose to stay with US Law Shield as an instructor for my students because I like the type of coverage that they offer. And I also have students and myself who has had to use the US Law Shield services. And so with that being said, that's why I stay with them because I rely on their service and I think their service is really great. USCCA, I don't have that much of a relationship with them, but some of the things I read in their contracts and their coverage, I did not like compared to US Law Shield. And that's why I chose US Law Shield. And I stick with US Law Shield for my students because I know and I believe in their service. USCCA as an instructor will pay me more. So that would be a plus as an instructor, but I'm not in it for the money. I really want to make sure my students has the best quality product. And so that's why I stick with them. So oh, DMV Renovations definitely said that they use US Law Shield themselves, so I'm glad that they were there to help you. And I don't know what this other person is saying, but thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Um, and yes, Global Glock 45. I'm assuming you own a Glock, maybe a 45. You definitely, I mean, definitely, it is crucial for you to have some sort of legal protection. Now, U.S. Law Shield will tell you they are not insurance. They're not gun insurance, okay? So what I'm going to tell you is you, one, need a lawyer that you can call and ask legal questions to. U.S. Law Shield will do that. You can pick up the phone right now. It's 8:42 where I am, Eastern Standard Time. It can be 7 a.m. or it can be 2 a.m. somewhere else in the world. Well, I'm just throwing out some numbers here, okay? So it doesn't matter what time of day. You can get someone on the phone to help you with a problem if you have an emergency. That is one thing I really, really love about US Law Shield. It doesn't matter if it was Christmas Day or New Year's Eve, they are going to have someone there if we have an emergency. Now, if I'm just calling to ask a question, that may take a day, maybe two tops. I've never experienced two. I've only experienced a couple of hours, really, of someone calling me back. And when I say someone, I mean a lawyer calling me back to answer whatever legal question I had. So that's one peace of mind that I have about US Law Shield. The other thing piece of mind I love about US Law Shield that really, really helped me is the fact that I know that is one thing first, you have to know the law, okay? If I'm acting out of self-defense and I'm in the right, they're going to protect me, okay? I'm going to have a lawyer that's going to be able to immediately be able to be at the scene or either meet me at the jail so that they can handle my situation. Because when it comes to the law, it's scary. To me, at least, it is scary, okay? It's an unknown territory. I'm not familiar about how things go when it comes to the police or the law and things like that. So when it comes to that, it's a outside of just knowing what the law is, as far as understanding how it operates, I need that legal protection. So if you're anything like me, you definitely want to do that. Plus, when it comes to costs, most of us don't just have like $10,000 just sitting there, you know, to get a lawyer or retainer, which is what the average cost is for any given situation, to get a lawyer to help you with the situation. Instead, US Law Shield is charging like maybe $40 a month, depending on what package you get. That's like no brainer for me. I'm paying that $40 a month so that way I can have that legal protection instead of having an emergency and have to spend $10,000 of money that I don't even have, you know? And then even the peace of mind of knowing that if I am detained and I need to make bail, they'll make bail for me too, up to a certain amount. Okay. Whereas most of us don't have enough money sitting there waiting for bail as well. So instead of sitting in jail waiting for my court date, which could be months. So those are just a couple of things that US Law Shield does help with, and that's why I am a person that has their service and why I suggest everyone who owns a firearm to have them. There's so many other things too, honestly. So definitely Global Thought 45, you don't have legal protection, please check out US Law Shield. The link is in the description. And even if you go to uslawshield.com and you use the promo code TROUBLE when you sign up, that gives us credit. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so Global 45 said, I swear they look for new ways to take your money. And that's facts. I hear you. This company, I can guarantee you they're legit. They do their work properly, okay? And even on previous shows that I've done, previous lives I've done, the lawyer that I've had on here twice, I say Attorney Joe, but his real name is Joseph Scafano, and he's a lawyer in the DMV area. He's really awesome, and he is on the retainer list for U.S. Law Shield. So if you're in the DMV area, he could actually be your lawyer defending you if there's a situation. So one of the things that really also kind of said, hey, they gotta be the place to go, U.S. Law Shield, because I know the way that they pick the lawyers. They don't pick just anybody to be a lawyer that works with them. What they do is they sit in their cases and watch their winning streaks and say, hey, look, okay, they're doing a great job over here. Okay, maybe we can recruit them. But if they're not doing a good job, they don't really care about their job so much, then they tend to not even bother with asking to recruit that person. So they vet their lawyers. So that's another reason why I really love it. So I agree with you that somebody's always trying to come up with a way for money. I get it. But this is one of those kind of peace of minds that I'd rather have than not have. And then have an emergency situation that takes me away from my family for extended periods of time. So many times before, so many people use a firearm, rightfully so, but they still have to deal with the legal consequences, and they're not equipped to deal with it, whether they don't have the knowledge on the legal sides of things, or whether they don't have the money to defend themselves properly. So this will kind of fix both of those problems. Okay, so Heckler Garcia, thank you so much for joining again. I appreciate you jumping in today. What gun? So you have the flag that's a gun compartment, right? Yes. What gun do I have in it? Shh, my secret. I can't tell you all my stuff. I gotta keep some stuff to myself. But hopefully nobody ever finds out what gun I keep in there. So when it comes to my gun compartment, yes, it is behind me and it has a surprise gun inside. Hopefully nobody ever has to find out which one it is. So, and I'm sorry, no, you cannot see. So I don't want to make YouTube upset. I got kicked out before and banned for a moment of going live just for handling the firearm. So going live, I won't be doing that. It's all right. I'll leave it alone. So don't want to get in trouble with that. No, you can't see, Michael. No, you can't see. Y'all gotta no. I gotta keep some stuff for myself. So when it comes to that gun compartment, though, it is really cool that it's just like they're decorative. So if anybody doesn't know what it is, then now you know. If you didn't know, you know. It's a gun compartment. I'll post the link there in the video too for that. Yeah. So yeah, YouTube did ban me for a little while for actually handling the firearm live. I was doing a recording for one of the interviews, and I decided to go live for a few minutes so people can see like the behind the scenes of us recording an interview. And I didn't even know for a good little minute that they had actually banned us from going live. So I was like, oh, that's nice. I thought my whole channel was going to be like shut down, but they said it was a first offense and they'll let it go. But I had to wait like a week or something like that. I forgot how many days or a week before I could go live again. So I was like, oh, okay, that was nice. Just a lesson learned. Reading is fundamental. I didn't read the laws of YouTube well before I started going live. And I thought it was a very dumb thing too. But realistically, you know, they have their reasons. And if I had to make any guess to their reasons, it probably had a lot to do with just before I had done that video, there was a young man not too far away from me in Virginia that actually was live on some social media platform and unalived himself live. So, and that wasn't the first time that has happened where a person has unalived themselves live on some social media platform. So I guess that might be the reason why, because they don't want to have anybody do that again. So they cut the video. They just stopped it. So yeah, that was an experience, and trust me, after that, I was reading. I was definitely reading to make sure that I followed the law of YouTube. But yeah, it's really a sad and unfortunate thing that we have so many young people out there handling guns and thinking they know what they're doing, and they make a mistake. So this young man was, I remember he was like an up and coming rapper. I forgot what part of Virginia it was. Um, but yeah, and he just was a good kid overall. What people were saying about him in the community, it's just that he was doing like a little rap video or something, and he was playing around with the gun and just waving it and accident like had it to his head, and he shot himself in the head by accident. So I'm like, wow, and that happened live. So it was really unfortunate that something like that happened. And again, I know that wasn't the only case. There were multiple cases that was similar to that as well. So we got to be safe out there, people. And this is why we have these community discussions like we're having today. I mean, you guys are going to take this information, you're going to teach this to your family, you know, your friends and things, and we're going to learn from each other to do better, basically, to not make the same dumb mistakes and, you know, craziness and affect each other negatively like that. Because I can't even imagine, you know, the family, first of all, experienced their, I think, 17-year-old that unalived himself. He might have been 16. Um, and then I can't even imagine like sitting there watching a live like this, and then something like that happens. It's like, you know, what? Was that real or was that fake? Like, I don't even know how to take that. I would be so in shock and just heartened. Like, it would be terrible for any of that. So I can imagine why they would not allow people to handle guns anymore while they're being alive. Okay. So, so my gun channel can show guns. I can't handle them. So if I was to bring the camera to a firearm and show you guys, as long as my hand is not on it, it should be okay. Um, but the live is the factor. So if I do recorded videos like I do with my interviews, if you guys look at some more videos that I have of interviews, we're actually shooting the guns. That's fine. So as long as it's not live and handling the firearms, I'm okay. So it's one of those things where it really, really sucked, because I definitely pleaded my case to YouTube. I was like, hey, this is what I do. This is, you know, and the sad part about it is the person who was handling the firearm was a student, but they were under the direction of a licensed firearm instructor. So the person was receiving instruction from an instructor at the time. So an instructor and the student were both in the video, and you can see the instructor explaining to her how to use the firearms. So it was really crazy that that even took place, but it is what it is. Again, now I gotta follow the rules. Just gotta follow the rules. So if you guys have anything that you guys want me to cover in 2025, please let me know, because I'm looking for more ideas out there as to what things you guys want to hear about, because I would love to be able to provide you guys the knowledge that you're looking for. I'm definitely all ears for any things that you guys want to hear in 2025 that you want me to talk about, or different type of guests that you want me to bring on. Okay, can't say specific guests, but a particular topic, I would guess I would say. So is I love the fact of these community discussions that we have, because I feel like I'm doing my part to make sure that the world is a safer place going forward, especially pertaining to firearms. So I really hope that you guys are getting that insight that I'm trying to put out there. And if you like this video, you like my content, please go ahead and thumbs up this video, share this video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and that way you'll be notified when we do more videos, which I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, for a little check-in around 12 o'clock window of time. I'm still working on that, so work with me, you guys, okay? But I'm trying to work that in there where every week, just for about 10 minutes of your time, I'm doing a little check-in to see what you guys are doing with your firearms. Do you have this down pack? Do you have that down pack? And just a little reminder to do this and do that. That's what the whole check-in factor is all about. And then I'll also see you guys next Friday for another topic that we're going to have a new family discussion, basically community discussion about what things you guys need. So, oh, you're looking for gun reviews? Okay, I definitely have some coming up. I'm working on some edits. We're gonna get that out there to you guys. So, new budget guns. I hear you about that, Big Dad 444. I hear you. I'm on it. Got you. Gun reviews. I got you. That's gonna be lots of fun too. So I'm looking forward to doing that for you guys and with you guys. If you have specific guns you want me to try out there too, don't forget to put that in the chat as well or in the comment section. I'm definitely looking into getting those edits done for you guys so that you guys can see some really cool guns, some nice little gun reviews from Mrs. Trouble. And I look forward to it. It's going to be lots of fun. I get to shoot guns. All right, so Dee said, how about some suggestions for home defense guns and some ammo that is recommended? That is a good discussion too. I definitely have talked on that just a little bit before, but I can go a little bit more in depth to help you guys understand a little bit more about home defense guns and what that really looks like versus marksmanship guns. It's just like fun guns. So I can talk a little bit more about that and the type of ammo. Definitely. There is so much ammo out there to choose from. So I would love to talk to you guys about that. Thank you so much for this. I'll put that inside my little notes and I'll get those videos out to you guys as soon as possible. Shoot a Desert Eagle. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt and I hated it. I did not like that experience, but for you guys, I might be willing to try it again. Okay. I might be willing to try that again, but I did not like to shoot that. So far, my favorite gun so far, I mean, I guess I would say like reliability, comfort, overall like go-to gun. And this is not a concealed carry gun. This is just my SIG P320. It's comfortable. I love it. I mean, it feels so comfortable in my hand. It's a full size gun and it's great for home defense. But it's my favorite. I love the trigger. Um, so far, I haven't had another gun that I felt so much connected to than that particular one. So I have to play around with a little bit more. Maybe I'll come up with some more ones. But I have a feeling I might like, what is it, the Legion as well. I mean, obviously, your Kimber and, things like that, the 1911s, those are just going to be okay. But I'm thinking about something more reasonable. P320 is my comfort. I love that guy. So it's not small. No, it's a full size gun. The P320 is a full size gun. The smaller version is a P365, which I also love. But because it's smaller, it's a little bit more snappier. But you can mitigate that by getting the P320 XL or the P320. P365. I'm sorry, P365 XL or P365 macro. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. Those are the smaller versions, basically, of the P320, which is like a full size. So if you're looking for concealed carry, those are some great options. The macro, lots of people really like it, and for some people, they like the XL. So it's a matter of you kind of trying to see which one works best for you. But 6 Hour is my go-to brand. I love it. It's comfortable in my hand. I love the trigger. I'm all about the trigger because honestly, there's some triggers out there that's just a little bit too snappy, too long for me. I like to shoot and be done with it. So it's all those that's pounds per pressures actually works good for me just to have, not so much trigger like space as well. All right, so okay, I hear you. So you need a small gun. Yes and no. Okay, I will tell you, you got to be mindful that just because the gun is smaller, Mad Woman 23, doesn't mean it's like the best. Okay, because if it's smaller, that means it's a little bit more snappier and it may feel a little bit more uncomfortable for you to be able to control. So you want to find something in a nice medium for you. So I would say do try the P365 macro maybe. I would say that. You can also try the Hellcat, Springfield Hellcat. That also is another fave for concealed carry for me. those two, I would say, might fit pretty good in your hands. If you're on the smaller side of the hands, that could be a little bit better and comfort for you. Okay. But thank you guys so much for joining. I really look forward to seeing you guys next week for a little check in for about 10 minutes, midday, probably Wednesday. And then also again, Friday next week at 8 p.m. for another great community discussion. So I love that you guys stuck around and you communicated with me. I love it. Thank you so much again. And see you guys next week. Happy New Year once again.